GM. Hope you guys can hear me. Excited here to kind of jump into the Rune ecosystem and kind of just have a good understanding of how things are forming this past week and really just giving you a few of the actionable tips, really depending on if you want to be active or passive on having, and then depending on are you a minnow, dolphin, or whale, right? It doesn't matter if you're a minnow, dolphin, or whale. The key is knowing your role, your size, and what you can play with to make the optimal decisions here, right? So we'll talk through each of these because what we want to understand is that the Rune ecosystem, and more importantly, even just the BTC ecosystem as a collective, has very much been driven towards whale outcomes, right? It's been historically a more expensive chain to interact with. Mints have been significantly higher. A lot of the mint fees that you see here at the moment right now are astronomical if we were trying to compare them to other chains, right? Like trying to do mints at 1 ETH or 2 ETH, right, are pretty crazy. So, but what we recognize here, though, is that it also comes with larger returns, right? If we look historically in categories like the PFP market, right, the highest floors for PFPs are now clearly on ordinals, which is quite crazy, right? The other thing that's actually quite interesting is that if you actually think about it, generative art as a category has had more larger wins on ordinals than a lot of other chains. Don't get me wrong, I think on ETH and still driven by, that art blocks community. But when you look at the floor prices of, say, Hartos, right, Golden Ratio, or some of the nullish pieces, right, it's actually really interesting to see that Ordinals has already made an impact on art, and it's barely even really scratched the surface on where art can go, which is exciting. We'll see how Thank You X does later today, as well as he has his second collection coming out. But as we recognize, it still is going to be whale-based games. And that's an important thing to understand is that it means that you might be sized out in certain plays. So you want to figure out where you want to enter and exit accordingly. And we'll talk about a few of those things here today. But before we go into that, let's kind of go into the conversations here as well, right? And kind of get an understanding of what are the tabs that you should always be starting your day with, right? And kind of going through that flow. And I want you guys to build that process. So, my day is just like this. Every time I'm opening up, mainly because I'm a builder, I actually start on Ordpool first, right? I'm always looking at what fees are because fees will then dictate my strategy for that moment and or day, right? And what I mean by that, if I'm landing on Ordpool and I'm seeing sats are 100, I realize I'm doing almost no real on-chain transactions right now, right? There's almost nothing that is optimal for me to be doing on-chain at those fee rates in this period. But when I see, fees are within 30, this is where I could start thinking, okay, well, I have a few tasks that do work for low fee scenarios, such as maybe I want to split my UTXOs. Maybe I want to move asset A to asset B, right? Or asset from wallet A to wallet B. Those kind of elements I might want to start leveraging here. Also, I'm trying to understand how is the market moving. So when there are high fees, when I'm trying to understand what was causing those high fees, right? Is something new minting, right? So that's also why I then use my secondary tool here that I land on, which is BTC Tool. And what BTC Tool, right, is showing us is what's happening within the given blocks or the last 5 blocks, right? So here, what we can see is just like the breakdowns. There's a few BRC plays. So when I come here, I'm looking at, okay, there's not that much BRC action. Usually if there's crazy BRC action, you're seeing about 1,000 to 2,000 transactions in the last 5 blocks here amongst BRC. Right now, we're only seeing like 150, 200 in total. I also try to see if there's any new protocols that are picking up, right? So we see a DMT tap play. We saw some ARC stuff here. We see some BRC 420 as well. So I see just whether or not any of the other meta protocols are picking up. And I think that's also like an important thing you guys want to keep in your mindset here as well, very clearly, is that you want to know where these insights are coming in from. So Wildwest Crypto asks a great question. Why Ordpool over meme pool? Really because I care about ordinal and token meta protocol assets when I'm looking at meme pool. When I'm looking at this data, and Ordpool does a much better job of showcasing that. So on Ordpool, what's really cool is that they color coordinate you in the block to let you know what's happening. So anything that's orange is essentially an ordinal based asset or a token based asset that is being inscribed. So in most cases, these are like BRC20s. In this case, this is a root. I don't know what type of King Rune Punk or what derivative this may be, and I could quickly see the visual aspect of what's happening. And that's important utilizing Ordpool over meme pool, is that Ordpool is already giving you a lot of that actionable information. But the truth is, you could use meme pool just to be able to see the feeds, and then you could use a tool like btctool.pro to see more of those details. But Ordpool is just significantly easier for me to read and interact with. I also just like how it's prioritized the information, the previous blocks. There's also a secondary color, which is pink, that you might see at times. That's in reference to the Cat21 protocol in Ordpool. That doesn't really have much reference here. But I've historically always liked Ordpool a little bit better, because I'm telling you, in this first block on halving, this will be a lot of orange here. You're going to see tons of ticker symbols, etc. And that's also what I want to see with Ordpool, is by hovering, I can just quickly see what's happening, right? Someone's burning in an ORC20 here for some reason. Here's some transfers of Wizard here that someone made a little bit of bag on. Someone's still trying to mint some new BRC20 tokens. So just going through this, I've always liked Ordpool as a better user experience for me. But again, you could always choose yourself. So, after I'm going through BTC Tool, what I'm also doing is I'm normally going through the tokens here and try to see what's happened in the last blocks here. And this will be really interesting as long as they have runes ready to go on day 0. And they've been noting that will be the case. So you'll also be able to see which runes are getting minted with velocity. That's a huge advantage here, using a tool like this just to see where the velocity is going in the market. Because especially when it comes to meme coins, it's honestly, it is money velocity, right? It's accumulation velocity. It is which one is grabbing the mind share of the market in that, mimetic moment, right? Is what it is. So using these tools are important, because then you're able to see two things, right? You're using BTC tool to see like the historical understanding in a lot of ways, and it does tell you what's also showcasing in the next block. And the same thing, I'm using Ordpool to understand what's happening in the next block too. So these are kind of two really good tools that will allow you, and this is your advantage, right? This is the beauty and hatred that comes with Bitcoin. But this is what I want to tell you is your play. The beauty here is that it's not just pure insider only driven stuff now, because insider only driven stuff technically will always show on the blockchain. When you see anyone ape a lot of stuff very quickly, you could join in on that same block with them for that ape, right? Because you have that technically 5 to 15-minute window per block. So this is your way to kind of maybe join the coattails of some of these whales, right? And it means that you actually have real access and opportunity that is somewhat equitable. Don't get me wrong, there will still always be some type of insider information that is occurring within this ecosystem that we may not always be privy to. But the block doesn't lie, right? The block will tell us what people are gassing up, accumulating, and aggregating. We'll see what is the quality of the wallets or the distribution of those wallets. But that's the other thing you want to understand, is that everyone's going to be using alt wallets here. So we have no clue what are the quality wallets right now. It's going to be pretty blind. So that's why what you need to, of course, be developing, and that's why we've been harping on this for the past few weeks, is you need to understand how to read mempool, Ordpool, and tools with btctool.pro. It's just going to give you a much larger leverage. So I usually start with these two things to kind of start my day. The third thing that I'm always then moving into is like I always want to know what's happening on Magic Eden. Traditionally, I'm usually coming in and seeing what's happening in the 1 day timeline. So I'm just trying to get an understanding if there's any massive shifts here. I don't really see something crazy. Bitcoin puppets continue to bleed a little bit. It's kind of interesting. It's just a slow decline here for a little bit here as well. I might see a new mint here, see why it's holding up a little bit, seeing a lot of good volume here. Curious to see if that's going to run. And I'm just looking again if there's anything that's like calling out to me that's like, oh, I should take action on this. Or, hey, this is a new entry. Or, hey, this is a new play. Exo Unchained just came out here as well. Same thing. Large mint. It still has low listed, which is good because they did a lot of pre-sale. But again, it's so hard to eke out profit in this market. This was essentially a 0.001 mint. Essentially, it's only, it's still up, right? Which is great. You're still up 50, 60% on this. But the challenge, right, of course, is with fees and everything, it doesn't really lead to a positive flip. So that's what we are seeing with a lot of these new mints is that, especially when you go the 10K collection, a lot harder to scale. But when we go look at this new, I think this is new. I haven't seen this before. Ilu, yeah, this is that 3D collection, which still kind of creeps me out. I don't know why it looks a little uncanny valley. I'm gonna not show pending, hide that. But you can see, right? I want to confirm this is brand new at the moment right now. So yeah. So just came out this morning, right? Or my morning, so 5 hours ago, 5.5 hours ago. And what we see here is that this is actually holding decent buy pressure here, which is great. Has good distribution, has a okay listing percentage, just above 10%, which isn't awful for runes. Sorry, for ordinals. And then the other thing that we see here as well, or at least it's not showing it here, is the listing percentage on it. Oh, it's 11.8%. So this is holding generally well. I don't know what this minted at. I'm actually not even looking at it. Oh, it minted about 4 days ago. Oh, and then they airdropped it. Was it nil? Was it a kind of a pre-sale or a buy project? And then they airdropped it today. Yeah, and then it got traded today. Potentially, I think that's what it probably ended up happening. Yeah, but interesting, right? Because what we are seeing is that smart small supplies still seem to be like the smarter play in this market. We'll definitely investigate that. We're gonna definitely watch terrains if I'm in your guys' shoes, mainly because I want to see, does art movement happen anytime soon on Bitcoin in a meaningful way. I do think you'll see an art blocks revolution here in the next 90 days on ordinals. That's another big area that you want to start figuring out how to get exposure in. But nothing really massively calls out. The next thing I'm usually shifting into is the 1 hour timeline here, just seeing if there's any real thing getting more than enough volume that I need to care about. But nothing crazy. I mean, we're seeing Runevo and Exo getting a little bit of buy pressure at those price points. But what are we also seeing when we go to the pre-runes category, right? Is that again, still microcaps are struggling. So, what is surprising, even though fees are low, a lot of these things are dropping quite a bit. Ordinal Sigma is now down 20-30% from its mint price. Or at least it was around 0.0055, I believe the mint price was, right? And I actually like this team, but again, just showcasing how hard it is to just maintain that attention at this price point, right? And what we're also seeing here when we go, let's zoom out to a day log, right? You are seeing good volume, which is awesome in a lot of these things, but the same problem is a lot of these micro caps are struggling to really push forward. So, I want to keep an eye out here because surprisingly at these fees, one of these microcaps should be making a bullish announcement right now if they're any bit on top of their game. Because considering the block fees are around 30 sats right now, right, or 27 sats, this is exactly where people will want to enter and exit. Because if fees remain like this, right, this it's a blessing, but we know it's going to change relatively quickly. And the delta of being able to actually scale, right, this ecosystem out is going to be dependent on, are you getting assets at 150 sats or at 30 sats? It's a massive, massive impact. So I do hope some of these microcaps take advantage. I'm actually surprised sat fees are this low, to be very honest. I actually expected it to be a lot more aggressive. But what we are seeing here as well is that it is a little bit of liquidity is slowing out as people are starting to figure out that they need to stack. There is some moving in kind of just hanging there. It's not getting more accumulation pressure. It's not getting a lot of sell pressure. It's just hanging around. So this is kind of like a big challenge, right? Like as you see in this market, is that people are kind of in a standstill, and this is kind of what leads us into the Rune ecosystem primer. It's almost so much is happening, but we have no understanding of the actual true variables that happen on day zero, that it does truly feel like we're playing three different games, right? Three different games we're playing, right? We're playing pre-rune game, meaning which of these ordinal IOU assets, right? Because that's effectively what we have is ordinal IOU assets that we have do we want to most accumulate at the moment right now? Right. That's been the first game we've been playing with some very clear winners like Runestones, Rune Pups, Arsic. And you could throw in a handful of other like mid caps there as well. Like Tiny Viking still doing really well. Right. But essentially what we saw is that in this pre-rune game is that it was really two, three winners. That's it. Right, really ends up being the lead. And this is true for almost any new market creation. Right? There's almost like 2 to 3 winners. You need just a couple to compete and usually a third party in there as well to make it interesting as the dark horse, right? So it's the same thing that we're also going to see that's going to happen in the next game we're playing, which is Day 0 Runes, right? And this is what we also want to understand is that that will have its own games and rules of what's happening on Day 0 Runes. And then the third game we're playing is what's going to happen in post runes world, right? And this is more around protocols leveraging runes as a form of fundraising or value accrual for those who participate in their ecosystems. And we know a lot of people are going to be doing this too. So let's kind of walk through these games here really quickly. And the best way to walk through these games in a very simple way is what Dogfather put together, right? And we shared this tweet already with you guys in the earlier post, but this is essentially his rune ecosystem map, right? And this is probably the thing that we're going to focus on here today because I think he does a really good job just giving you the landscape of the ecosystem. So let's just quickly talk about this and get an understanding of why this matters. Well, first is right, he's broken this up into four different categories. On the left side, we have all these are pre-rune tokens here. And this is not even all the pre-rune tokens. There's a ton of shit that should be on this list because it's that competitive. But what we've seen is that this market's gotten pretty saturated. And right now, it's people just kind of in their holding pattern. There might be one or two that might come out here. You're going to see a few people try to push some mints out at the very last moment. But in reality, here, what I think we want to recognize is that most of the pre rune meta is pretty established. You're now just accumulating based on where you have conviction. And most of you should have already made your plays. If you haven't made a pre-rune play yet, probably today and tomorrow, your last few days, if you want, throw in offers into some of these smaller mid or micro caps and see what may happen because especially if they're not in getting a good amount of volume, people will dump, especially on collections that have mid rares and rare assets as well. Those are absolutely the times that you should be dropping in offers here and potentially start accumulating. At the moment right now, for me, all I'm really looking for is kind of entry in the proven winners. So Runestone and Rune Pups are what I'm actually primarily focused on. The other thing I'm doing is right now personally fading any of the rune assets that had active mining involved. And what I mean by that, and that's an important thing because we have these two different categories, right? We have active mining and passive mining. What I'm saying here at this point is that the reason why we're kind of fading, right, all of these active mining is that in a very good chance, 70 to 80% of the potential rune upside has already been mined here as well, right? And that's kind of an important thing to understand. So I'm actually bullish on Arsic, but I wouldn't tell you to get exposure to Arsic today, right? If you had to choose between Arsic and Runestone, my thesis is go for the passive rune plays, right? And what I mean by that is what's amazing about Runestone is that it doesn't matter if you owned Runestone a month ago or if you own Runestone a day before there's a Runestone, no matter what, right? It is an equal drop. It is an equal IOU. Each Runestone represents essentially an equitable equal share amongst all the others. So it means that if you were to enter Runestone, you're not taking on a degraded asset in any way. It still maintains its exact value in regard to its redemption value later. Well, that's not the case for Arsic. Arsic has been a time-based value upside of you holding that asset, and it doesn't rotate into you if you buy. The only exception to this rule is where active mining solutions are actually transferred on sale. So that's where it could be interesting. And I believe that's the case for, say, Tiny Viking. Tiny Vikings, if you were etching it or mining their essential runes on the Tiny Explorer, what actually happens is on a sale, all of the stuff that has been actively mined by that Viking will transfer to you. So if that's the case, right, that will be a really meaningful way to potentially still buy into that active mining because it's active mining with full transfer. So that's how you probably want to think about it if you're looking for entry. And I agree with Ale here. He mentioned earlier, these are the last days to get into a pre-rune project. A lot of these new rune projects, right, are going to struggle, right? They are really going to struggle. So, try to get into an established one if you haven't, just for that exposure. And the nice thing then is that you don't have to fight the battle of knowing when to claim it, etc. Right? Find a project that's just going to airdrop it to you, right? If that's the case, right, it just makes you have a lot more upside here in this kind of market as well too. So I hope that we'll see a few more, real opportunities here, and of course, do it with these low fees. It's very bullish, right? When you could get into these low fees and you could put in good offers and potentially get some good little buys. And I'm going to continue to do that. There's a few projects that I'm hoping that maybe Runestone dips back down into like 0.06 range again. It kind of got close. There was a sale at 0.071 earlier today. But I'm looking for maybe potentially entry there. The other thing that I'm also like really interested in here as well is getting a much better upside on that scale here as well. Okay. Enoch saying double check. Do already etch runes transfer liking or stay with wallet? So it does stay with the wallet. So good to know, Enoch. Thanks for confirming. So I got it wrong there on Tiny Vikings. So Tiny Vikings then is active mining and it stays with the wallet, and that's a bad design on their end. The reason I say that's bad design on their end is that it does incentivize people to dump. But it's okay. At least we know that. Yeah, Wild West Crypto knows it's total dump design. So that's not a great thing on Tiny Vikings. So just something you want to be careful for. Again, Tiny Vikings will probably still be whatever mining quite a few of their tokens for quite a bit of time. But because it doesn't get you that transfer value, I also wouldn't actually be optimizing to enter into Tiny Vikings here as well. Exactly, Quota. I wouldn't. I wouldn't go into any of these active minings that don't transfer the full value to you. So that's kind of why you want to realize, right, is that anything that you're trying to acquire in pre-runes, you need the full transfer of value of that asset for you to consider it. So that's why I have Runestone ahead of Arsic in that value proposition if you were buying today. So same thing, as we look at this ecosystem map, right, on the left side we have these pre-rune tokens. On the right side is what you kind of have is like the rest of the infrastructure you need. So we have launch and mint pads. This is going to be really interesting to keep an eye out, right? There's Ordinal's bot, Rune's pad, Bitcoin Rune, Ordbit. I don't want to say BTC bot AI is a launch mint pad. I'm not sure why they put that one on here. Magic Runes, Rune Forge, Rune Toshi, Meta Rune. There's going to be a lot, right? What we want to understand here, and probably one of the most important things we want to figure out is how do we get exposure to at least one into every one of these categories in a meaningful way. And when this is kind of the other reason I've been building this thesis is that if I can, if if there is a potential ordinal based or rune based asset that is connected to one of these assets, I'm trying to acquire it, right? Because I want exposure to all of the infrastructure that will support runes, right? It's not just the idea I want the only end output of a rune meme coin. I want rune infrastructure too. And because of that, that's also where I've been putting in a little bit of my plays to get a little bit more of a wider exposure too. So, for example, if we look to the launch mint pad category, there actually aren't a lot of these with assets, but one of these or two of these do have assets at the moment right now, maybe even more. But we know Runes Pad and Magic Runes both have assets. So in my case, I've optimized for Runes Pad and have been buying their Odyssey apes. And again, I'm not saying it's a great buy. It's an exposure to making sure I have access to a potential launch pad of multiple of these runes, right? If and especially because when I look at this market, we're all dealing with incomplete information. What I want to do is I want to have exposure and the largest amount of exposure to opportunities. So that's the reason why I've optimized to get a little bit of access, right, to Rune's Pad through their ordinal based asset as well. If we look at the few of the other categories, same thing. There are a few different opportunities here, right? Magic Eden, right, has diamonds. If you want exposure there, definitely make sure you're getting diamonds through your wallet. And you could consider buying over the counter if you want. Don't really recommend it, right? If we go into wallets, data, tooling, and DeFi, a few of these projects actually do have assets, right? Jenny Data has its own Genesis card that's actually really valuable. If you're not familiar, um, let me just show you it. Jenny Data is a data platform. Here it is, right? And it's sitting at like zero point 0.1 BTC, right? Not too bad. $6,300 here at the moment right now. So a little bit pricier, but it is a Genesis pass here. So I grabbed one of these just so I have exposure as well. Separately, right? Ninja Alerts, right? If you're familiar, that is the Pizza Ninja team as well too, right? Might be meaningful to have exposure there too, as I already have as well. And then, a few of these also have, their own runes. Runeflex had a rune here that actually a few of us minted like 3 weeks ago. There's a few other pieces here as well. And I'm not saying you need to over optimize to have exposure to each of these, but it is a smart way to build a more well rounded portfolio when we still are dealing with incomplete information. And that's kind of like the big thing I want to like talk to you guys about as we now move to day zero rune plays here. So before we go into that, let's just do the recap on pre runes, right? Really, right now at pre runes, you really want to understand a couple of things. Pre runes have already kind of gone through their meta. They're now nearing their end cycle where we get into a redemption window. Right now, it's not really worth getting into pre-rune assets that had active mining involved because most of that mining window has been consumed. So if you are looking to get into pre-rune assets, try to find assets that you'll get full 100% value of its redemption. If you can do that, you're going to do a really good job and get a lot of major upside here as well. The other thing you want to understand about these pre-rune plays is that expect that you have to hold these for about 2 to 4 weeks post halving, right? A lot of these will not be ready to airdrop with high fees in the first week. That's the other thing you want to really understand here is that these are long-term positions, right? With pre-rune plays, the expectation is that most people cannot do airdrops until sat fees get back under like 250, 200. And there's a high likelihood that we might not see sat fees under 250 for a week or a couple of weeks, right? I mean, we've already seen this market have like 3, 4, 5 different straight blocks over 180, right? Like pre runes. Like, holy crap, this shit is going to absolutely going to be and that's how you also have to think about all these layers as we get ready for pre runes is that it's a great way for us to get exposure, right? And now, because of that opportunity, you now need to make sure you're ready to hold for that longer term window and get the full return of that play. So, the biggest thing I need to remind you is that if you made pre rune plays, try to see them out until the redemption window. You may be pressured to get liquidity. If you need liquidity, get it now. Like, get it here in this next like day or so when fees are lower, because all micro caps and mid caps will have almost no volume, right? As soon as sat fees go back over 150, right? Like they really won't. There's not a point to do it. So that's an important thing to understand. We are grabbing and holding these bags for 2 to 4 weeks here at this point. If you can do it, you'll be in a good position, and hopefully you'll be able to see the upside of this class. Biggest thing as well here, as we mentioned, is try to make sure you have a portfolio of these. At least have exposure to 3 different ones. They don't all have to be tier ones, right? I'm not saying you need to get Runestone, Arsic, and Pups. Those are all really incredibly expensive, right? It's like almost like 0.25 BTC on that front. What I am saying though, right, is that you should have, maybe one of those three and then two small ones to a certain extent. Because again, this is also still spray and pray methodology, and this will really emphasize into our day zero strategy as we talk about that next. The only thing else you want to understand about pre-runes here as well is recognizing that most of these pre-runes will also have a massive struggle if they don't have real treasury. So that's the other thing you want to really care is which projects airdropped runes but actually have a business model or revenue model or venture fundraising so that they keep ongoing development. A lot of people are trying to do this as a pre-fundraise, and that's kind of what you want to kind of stay away from. Guys who are hoping this generates them revenue to be able to operate, because it means that if they don't catch fire immediately, they go straight to zero. So try to avoid those opportunities if you can. I know there's still a lot of incomplete information, but that's also areas that you want to keep alert to as you kind of walk through all these pre-rune opportunities here too. So with that, let's kind of move into the second game, which is day zero runes, right? And in day zero on block 840,000, 4 days away. This is exciting and scary and daunting at the same time, right? And because of that, it's going to be a very important thing as we kind of navigate through. Yeah, Freeman. Right now, there's probably not a great tool. So Freeman asks, what's the easiest referenceable way to know project capitalization, runway? Anyone have any ideas? The honest truth is that it's insider information by talking to those teams directly, and that's kind of sourcing it alongside any public sources if it's venture funded. But here's the honest truth: almost no one's venture funded in BTC right now on the Rune side, right? Like not even Rune Stone is venture funded, right? Like it's kind of crazy. The only like real venture funded blue chip or that's gotten a meaningful amount of attention right now is Taproot Wizards. So we are kind of at a lot of incomplete information. So what you're trying to understand is, was there a business or revenue model before this that they raised capital for or were able to generate revenue? But you're right. We should actually probably make that into our dashboard and we can actually add that in. So I'll kind of add that onto our plate and kind of create that and maybe share like a V1 draft that we can start building on as a community as well. But great point. So let's kind of shift into day zero, right? Because this is now our next game. Like pre-rune, you could maybe grab a few pre-runes, but that game's pretty much over. And now we're hoping that the decisions and the moves that we made will give us the yield and the results we're seeking. So let us all pray to the ordinal gods that it helps and we all win in whatever ways that may be. But now we must be ready for the second. And the second game is what's happening on day zero. And this is also really important now because there's opportunities for all of you to enter because it all goes back to that early conversation we talked about. We all have a 10-minute crystal ball with these blocks being performed live. And we as a community will actually be doing this live, walking through this, hopefully, if we get our timelines right. But at the same time, it means that regardless of your bag, all of you have a chance to get some access, right? We've already looked at the fees, right? Even if stats are insane, you could still traditionally be able to mint a rune for under $100 each, whatever that allocation may be, right? So if that's the case, all of you should still have access to a couple $100 to be able to make these plays. So you have some skin in the game no matter what in that early block. But let's talk about what we expect. You already know fees will be insane, right? We don't know what those fees are, but most people are calculating between 1,000 to 10,000 at the moment right now for that first few blocks. And that first few blocks is going to be crazy, just like insane, right? Because people are going after ticker symbols. People are looking to deploy as fast as you possibly can. It is going to be insanely, insanely crazy because this is the other thing to understand. Rune is a completely blind shelling point to a certain extent. We all know we got to dump into Rune, but no one knows what the hell we're dumping into, right? Because we really don't know anything outside of Rune Zero being uncommon goods. And the information we know about Rune Zero uncommon goods at this point actually tells us we shouldn't be minting that because it's a 4-year open mint. So let's mint that when fees are way lower. If that's the case and it's become almost a stable coin, the question then begs is what should we be minting on day zero? No one has a clue. This is how blind the shelling point is. We are literally getting, potentially billions of dollars of liquidity ready for this event. and we legitimately have no fucking clue what we're aping into. And that is kind of the insane beauty about this. It will all come down to how well you prepared beforehand to act dynamically and live on the information that is created on the battlefield on day zero. But there is one alpha that we know, right? There's one clear alpha that we know. It is the understanding as whoever wins rune number 1, not rune 0. Rune 0 is uncommon goods. Assuming Casey still sticks with only one hard-coded rune, and who knows, he might fucking change that as well. But assuming that's the case, it's going to be who wins the first public rune, whatever that may be, right? That's what we're seeking. That will be the clearest shelling point in the market. So whoever wins the first, ticker symbol is going to be a very clear large market cap. So that's one clear shelling point. The second clear shelling point is who's going to be the first to deploy and claim, right? Whoever starts this game the fastest within the earliest block will also have a merit and a conversation to claim that they are Rune 1. And what do I mean by this? Well, you could technically claim Rune 1, but you can deploy it 6 months later. Let me give you an example of this. One of the biggest blue chip assets on Ordinal is Bitcoin Shrooms. Bitcoin Shrooms was essentially all inscribed under sub 1,000 inscriptions over a year ago, right? Like a lifetime ago. And they only started trading publicly like 3 months ago, right? They were held in that way to be coming out. They still held their value. I don't think we're going to see a 6 or 9 month kind of scenario here, right? That's not what we're expecting here. But someone could win ticker symbol 1 and maybe not deploy it, right, in that kind of opportunity here as well. So this is kind of what we need to understand is who's going to actually get ticker symbol and deploy in that current way. So when they claim Rune 1, is it just a placeholder? No, it's not a placeholder. You are claiming the actual ticker ID. So it will be a hard-coded ticker ID in that first window, right? So we will know exactly what the ticker they're claiming, and they'll have to be putting it. So no, Rune can't be the ticker symbol, because that's the thing. The minimum ticker symbol has to be 13 characters. So we have no clue what the first symbol is. Character first time symbol, right? It's kind of brilliant, though, on how Casey has done it, because it then decreases over time. So it's not just going to be like the BRC20 meta of who gets the best 4 or 5 character, right, rune. It's not like that. It's who's going to create the best 12, 13 character name, right? That's going to be something like this. Yeah. Will it be Satoshi Nakamoto? It has to be a minimum 13. So it could go up to 26, if I remember correctly. So minimum 13 up to 26, and then you could use dots as well. So they're going to have to hard code a name directly in and put it all in. And it's just a simple etch. To etch a new rune is a very simple request and command to be able to do it. We'll all be able to do it by next week, right? I mean, we could all probably do it by day 0 if we want to, if you want to pay the fees. But that's how crazy it is. Creating a rune token literally will take you 3 clicks. If you guys have been playing with MotoSwap and you create a token, that's literally how hard creating a token future, right? In the very near future. I mean, like literally after day 1 or day 2, these features will be out. So what people are going to be aiming for, and this is what I'm trying to say, is that this is your alpha. You need to know who gets the first actual ticker symbol, which has the historical provenance. And then you want to find the first one who actually deploys and allows a claim window to exist, because that's what's going to also be the next race. So you're probably betting on those two. But also what I've shared, and one of the things in our community is use the pinned messages. We are pinning quite a bit, right? And there's some really good information there, right? So one of the ones I pinned, the last pin that I actually have in the Samurai Hall, is this one here, is how I break down the 4 sectors I'm looking at. I'm going to show you this real quick because this will be pretty helpful. Let me just get the formatting right. So the way I look at it is when you're thinking about minting all of this stuff here, right, is that you're gonna recognize there's probably 4 different, I think, sectors that I'm looking at the moment right now on day 0. So as I mentioned, we want early provenance, right? This is Rune 1, and Rune 1 will be defined in 2 ways, the ticker symbol and the first one to deploy. The first ticker symbol will be always more valuable, but the first one to deploy, it will be right behind it, right? So I would be looking at both of those. And then I'm also looking at who's going to own sub 100 runes, right? The same stupid meta that we saw on of just low inscriptions, you're going to get the same thing with low runes. And really, what that correlates to is how much money did you have? Because if you got a sub 100 rune, you probably had a decent amount of money to gas up. I mean, when I say decent amount of money, like I'm telling you, I don't know, maybe $5,000 is all you need to maybe get a rune in the first block, right? If you want to spend on that, right? Is kind of what you'd be thinking through. So this is kind of where I'm actually really intrigued to see like what those actual fees will be. So on the builder side, I will probably consider try deploying for a potential rune, right? To be able to claim it, not actually with early provenance. I don't know if I care about a sub 100 rune as much as other people, right? But it'd be nice to have a sub 1000 rune, whatever that may be. But realize everyone's going to be doing this. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy. So as you're looking as a trader opportunity, you want to look at that early provenance. The second area you want to look at is which one's going to have meme potential. And this is hard to find, right? It's you know it when you see it, right? It might be stuff like magic internet money, right? It might be stuff like, maxi, right? Like these kind of things might lead to your reason of betting on it, right? You might have, of course, like Pepe coin, right? Like, well, it'd have to be green Pepe coin, right? Enough characters to be able to hit that requirement. But that's also what you want to keep on. And really with meme potential, you want to see what's resonating with the traders as well. That's the second area you want to be looking at. The third area you want to look at here as well, blue chip ordinal. I think this is very unlikely. But if someone like OMB, Taproot Wizards, or Node Monkeys comes out with a legit token, like holy shit, you should ape this, right? I don't expect it to happen, but ZK seems to be building up to something, and Udi's been hinting at stuff very hard. I think both of them might be. I think Udi's definitely building more tooling infrastructure. I don't know if he's going to come up with token right out the gates, but if that is the case, definitely keep your eye on that. But also, you want to make sure, and I should write this here, you want to make sure how many people are going to fake this stupid shit. Because that's the other thing is that I 100% expect Udi and ZK to go claim a rune ticker symbol, right? But I don't expect them to deploy it. The real reason why you got to go claim it is that if you don't claim it, other people will do it, right? Like, oh, I got Taproot Wizard as my fucking name on my token, right? And that's going to be the other thing people are going to be paying for, right? It's like squatting, right, on the best URLs, right? If you ever watched, I don't know, there's an American show called The League. It's about like American fantasy sports. And it's kind of funny because in one of the episodes, it's like the DallasCowboys.com, they lapse, right, on their actual fees. One of the characters buys it and then like sells it back to them for a lot of money, right? That's kind of the same thing that's going to kind of happen here, right? People are going to try getting ticker symbols to either front run that same like opportunity, right? Or they're going to squat on those ticker symbols, right? And then sell it back to the company. Like I know, like it sucks, but I know this. I know tons of farmers who are planning to spend lots of money on tier 1 ticker symbols just to sell it for like 20x what they bought, right? That's what it's absolutely going to be. And this is kind of be like another opportunity to recognize how crazy day 0 is also going to be, right? The last thing that you really want to keep an eye out on, again, I don't think it's going to happen, but you want to see if any venture-backed entity makes a real legit play here. Does any legitimate L2 or protocol make an early rune play? Right? We know people want to do this, right? We know LFG wants to burn their BRC20 token and run a rune protocol token. When will that happen? Will they move quickly, right? Will, does MotoSwap go from their BRC20 into a rune? I doubt it. They'll probably go to a CBRC20 later. right? But again, you want to keep an eye out on all these other venture back guys, and we'll help you and we'll keep an eye out on finding these names, right? But that's also where you could have conviction because honestly, here's the truth: 99.9% of Bitcoin teams don't have runway, right? Beyond the 3 months or 6 months, right? Really, the only people that have runway are the venture back guys that are guaranteed, or the people who had really large primary mints, like very large primary. So this is kind of how you want to be looking at it here as well. It's going to be a very interesting way of looking at these four pockets. There may be other pockets you might see, but these are the four that are clearest. But as I can say is I can only give you guys a blueprint, right? Because we don't know how any of this will come. We don't know what will be Rune. Watch Rune 1 end up being won by some mining firm that ends up turning it into their mining token. I guess we're aping that shit. It's no longer a meme coin, it's a utility coin at this point. Who knows, right? Like, we might see a total random, AI token take off just on that narrative, right? Someone's going to go repeat all the same ETH meta, right? And try doing a twist of it on Bitcoin meta. But here's the honest truth. Because fees are so high, you want to kind of rein in a little bit of your degen nature and try to get strong position. Mainly because you don't have a lot of room to fuck around. Fees do not let you to enter and exit easily. Selling is not going to be the cleanest thing that you'll want. You're still wading through blocks for liquidity. It's just a slightly different game, right? And your user experience is going to be different. It's not going to be pure shitcoin trading. It's going to be something closer to NFT speed of trading, right? Because that's the other thing you'll want to understand is the volatility between blocks, right? Of buys and sells. It's going to be wild. I mean, wild. You're going to see certain tokens take some of the craziest roller coaster movements you will ever see. And I think that's also like a really important thing to understand about day zero is that expect the unexpected. So what do you need to be ready for on day zero on this Rune ecosystem primer is like, A, you need your tools that we've talked about. Simply Ord Pool, BTC tools, and making sure you know how to mint these runes on Xverse, Luminex are also going to be really important. So that's where you want to be able to start. But the other thing you want to realize here as well is plugged into communities, not one community. Don't get me wrong, we'll be live, we'll be helping, we'll be supporting, we'll be sharing. You should be plugging into multiple communities that day and seeing where is the narrative going. Use your leverage, especially for those of you who already have wide portfolios, to use it to see multiple narratives. One of the biggest things that people get caught in is they get stuck in the sub narrative of just their community, right? And this happens a lot. Like a lot of the products that have minted here in Bitcoin here recently, so many people like thought crazy prices for what their floors would be, right? But they were living in a bubble within just their sub community. Make sure you go look and read and go, okay, what are Ordinal OG community saying? What are new Ordinal communities saying? What are ETH, migrated communities over to Ordinal saying, right? Because you want to understand which one is going to connect to the collective meta, right? And that's why meme coins at its purest form are so strong. They can connect to every culture group and subgroup in a meaningful way to bring that attention and buying pressure in. So also remember, like you'll probably think of this as a Rune 3. Because of how expensive this is, you're going to see a lot of the buy pressure go into the first 3 winners. That's your other goal. You need to make sure you got access to one of those 3 winners. We know those 3 winners will be, one of them is without a doubt going to be whatever Rune 1 is considered by the market, right? The other 2 are kind of totally up for grabs. And this is kind of the beauty of it. It means that we all have a chance. And we all have a chance because also the blocks as well. So make sure you're getting prepped for April 20th and having it completely free and open for that exact reasoning. Because all you're trying to do is read the market. And when I say read the market, I'm not saying you don't need to do chart graphs, anything like that. All we're reading is like, oh, 1,000 people want this token. Oh shit, 1,000 people want this token, and the next highest token only wants 50 people. I probably should get in this token that 1,000 people want. You're like, yeah, that's really good logic. Congrats. That's literally the depth of the logic here at the moment right now in a lot of ways here, especially because of how early this game is. So make sure you feel confident to be able to navigate this, right? And this means that even if you have a small bag, you still have plays here, right? Just even having $500 to $1,000 gets you exposure here. And as long as you're okay losing that amount of money, you should be playing the degen casino game this market's giving you, because that's what it is. That's what day zero is. Day zero will be the dumbest degen casino you'll ever see, and it is literally going to be all of us like those 80-year-olds dropping their quarters into random fucking slot machines. That's what it's going to feel like for a lot of us. And randomly, left and right, we're going to hear jackpots coming, right? And we're just hoping it's going to be us. We're hoping it might be us next, right? But you really want to understand here, right, is this market is going to create jackpot winners. It absolutely is. It is going to be massive on what these winners will be and what you'll get. We're talking about minimum 10x, right? But realistically, a lot of these should have 20x, potential opportunities. But remember, the way you claim is a lot more fairer, which is interesting, right? It's not like you could just buy your maximum amount with the amount of BTC you have. It's that you have to claim them, right, through transactions that have to go on chain. They could be bought for sure. You could pay for it, but you still have to go through this claim process. And the claim is per slug of token, which means that you then have to run multiple transactions if you're trying to ape. So this is also why you want to have multiple wallets. You want to have your UTXOs optimized, right? Because you want to be able to get the max mints in that block. Because that's the other thing to importantly understand about day zero plays. Most of the mints will be minted out within 1 to 3 blocks, right? Like that's how a lot of this stuff will be played out, right? No more than 5 blocks unless they do some really interesting, unit economics on their claims, right? But like realistically, all the hot stuff should go within like 5 blocks, if not less than 3 blocks. So that means that we all have collectively 30-minute windows to hour windows to be able to enter projects, right? But realistically, you want to be able to start making those decisions, and that's how this game's going to play. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create like an interactive sheet that we're going to be following along with. And then we're going to try seeing like, which of these projects are getting the right velocity to find the right entry, and at what sat fees does it make sense for you to take different risks, right? And this is kind of why you want to realize if you are live and thinking through this, you will have a play. You will have an opportunity, right? And you will get some meaningful chances of understanding how this ecosystem will scale. So as we kind of understand that, right, what we then want to ask ourselves, right, is then after this kind of day zero rune meta, right, one of the biggest things we want to recognize is what post rune meta is going to be. So I think Rune Mania is not going to last as long as many people think. I think it's going to be super valuable, super profitable, but I think it's going to be like a candle in the larger, like a very crazy wick here in the scenario where we get an insane peak and a very quick decline, right? And what I mean by decline, I'm not saying that the entire market cap goes to zero by any means, right? But the way that you will see liquidity shift will go out of more from these meme coins into infrastructure very quickly. And that's going to be the bullish opportunity then for game number 3. What are post rune plays I want to get ready for? And this is where the combination of not only rune tokens, but farming really allow you to have an edge. Because this is the other reason why we've been encouraging farming as an opportunity for many of you guys. It's mainly because it's for the scenario where fees are stay above, I don't know, 200 or 100 for the next, month or 2 months. That very much could be the case. right? That's kind of insane if you think about it, right? Because at 100, 150 sats, buying, selling ordinals is super expensive, right? Buying, selling, runes is still meaningfully expensive. And these will become our realities very quickly. And this then means that we need to find alternative ways to accumulate exposure to the Bitcoin upside. And this is where I think you're going to start seeing rune plays that will be able to be earned and or farmed by participating into the next layer of Bitcoin infrastructure. And we shared this yesterday, but again, a great resource that I'll share here again called L2 Watch. This is another great resource. We shared the House of Camaro, which is also really great. But what's really awesome about here about L2 Watch is that you also get a state of each of the stages these assets are in. So you know what's our pre-test net, main net, and already on test net. So this will start pointing us into really good positions. It also notes their fundraising, which is also really great, which is also helpful for us to know, do they have tier one investors or not? The other really cool thing as well is that when you go all the way to the bottom of this, there's also this link. And this link is a Twitter list of all of these accounts. This is awesome. Follow this Twitter list and follow these people. Easiest alpha you're going to see. I promise you, a large portion of protocols and a meaningful group of L2s are going to use runes to fund and grow their ecosystems here as well, right? Like really on another level. And these are where you can actually win because this is what we want to start preparing for farming opportunities or asset opportunities. This is the real future. The real future of BTC is not ordinal assets, it's not meme assets, it's not meme coins. It's honestly, BTC finance, right? It's BTC fi, right? It's the real DeFi, right? And you don't even call it DeFi. It truly is BTC fi, right? It is a truly financial based ecosystem built on the most financial oriented chain here as well, right? And I think that's kind of like a very important thing here in this market is that when you look at these protocols, the exposure you can get is going to be, we're talking about $100 million, if not $1 billion airdrops, right? Is what you should be believing if you believe in a Bitcoin future, right? The bet here is that almost all the same infrastructure that we see from ETH is going to need to be built for BTC. If anything, it's going to be needed even more because what are we talking about this whole time in day zero play? Is look how shitty gas fees are going to right? And this is kind of why it's so important to understand if gas fees are like this, we're going to have to move to L2s to actually get more stuff developed. More importantly, because Bitcoin as a chain has very little tooling because there's not smart contracts here, you're going to need to find people who create workarounds, whether it be EVM compliant smart contracts, whether it be their own version of smart contracts. And this does require some, off-chain and centralized indexers for this. But this is where it's going to be a really fascinating debate because it's going to be who's going to be the winner, right? The same battle we saw between Starknet, Optimism, Polygon, IMX, Avalanche, as a collective EVM group. You're going to have the exact same battles be waged here on Bitcoin. And almost all those ones I just told you are multi-billion market caps. And majority of those had huge farming opportunities, including Arbitrum and Starknet, right? Starknet gave out 2 billion. Arbitrum gave out, I want to say 800 million. Actually, I got to go remember the Arbitrum number exactly. I think I made that. But Starknet for sure gave out 2 billion in their last era. That's insane, right? The average user, if you're a user, Starknet was $5,000 per wallet. Average wallet got 2,500 or 2,400. Those are insane numbers, right? Which is great. Shout out to Ali. Holy shit. Wow. You fucking farmed the fuck out of this. Ali just posted here really quickly. He's got 300 points on all of his accounts, if not 400. Wow. I really do hope this is something. And this is also kind of goes in why this post-rune meta is here. The reason why I like Moda Swap is that it's a kill two birds, one stone. It's getting you exposure to a swap protocol, and it's getting you exposure to a new meta protocol in CBRC 20, right? And that's kind of what we want to start making bets on, and that's why we introduced Moda Swap. Also, it's free. It's testnet. Awesome, right? This community has now become the largest testnet faucet, right? We've given out tons of TBDC. The easiest way to get testnet BTC in this world right now, coming in here. But this is why we want you to get exposure, because this is how you want to start building that mental map. You want to ask yourself, okay, what liquid meta protocols and what kind of infrastructure protocols existed on ETH? And what is the chances that that same protocol structure will be needed on BTC? And if you go down the list, you'll start realizing, oh yeah, we do need swap protocols. Oh shit, we do need lending protocols. Oh shit, we do need more liquid meta protocols. Or hey, we do need bridge protocols. We need all these protocols on Bitcoin. Oh fuck, all these guys need to build this shit. Oh shit, there's actually a lot of people already building it. Oh man, a lot of these people are probably going to give us tokens to help those ecosystems early. And this is kind of why you want to understand, right? If you get early with these wallets and early in these games, you're going to get seasonal yield, which is way awesome. And also, if you do this correctly, it will also help you not only through bull seasons, but more importantly through bear season, right? What was the sexiest thing about the bear was that Starknet airdrop. That was really nice for them to come in. I mean, it kind of came in very late in the bear season, a bit nicer in the early bear, but there were earlier airdrops here as well. And that's why I want to let you guys know post-rune game is so interesting, because not a lot of people are talking about this. Not a lot of people are really thinking this through, right? What is going to get venture support? What is going to get protocols that we could be day zero on? Which one that we could get into and almost get token-like equity into these companies that will be the future foundation of BTC. And this is why you want to start creating multiple wallets and creating multiple good, healthy profiles on them and giving them multiple assets there as well, right? Whenever you see a free mint right now, that's like, one of the other free mints we called out was the Ghostface free mint. There's still a few. Let me see if I can find that Ghostface. Yeah, here it is. If you want, I mean, they're still free. It's a slow mint. This is pretty cool. This is a free mint. If you like hip hop music, this is actually an inscribed 30-second full track. It's got some cool music history. It's not the first song, but it's the first, like, one of the first, like, high quality professional songs here. And this is open. And what's nice is that since fees are low, what you could do is you could mint this and send this to a new wallet that you want to start creating a little bit of history on. And each one of these mints should cost you, I don't know, $8, $9, something like that, right? Which is pretty important. So this is kind of the other way you could take advantage of maturing a few wallets that look like they have history and they were here before runes, right? You were here before because you start getting history on these wallets. These wallets actually existed before this kind of play, and that will matter. And this is also how you want to start thinking about some of these small plays, that these are just small investments building it out. So with this one, as a free mint, I moved it into 4 different wallets. I gave each wallet 2 of these, right, in 4 different wallets. And then same thing, I got all my shitty lame NFTs, right, that I've actually put on the market and sold very quickly back to those other wallets here as well. Hey, stop. Sorry. And that's kind of the nice thing here in this market, is that you're going to have a lot of upside and opportunities coming, but you want to start making those moves early where these wallets are maturing. These wallets look great, right? And you're going to be really solid. So Dextroy says, so if you airdrop into Fresh Wallet, it won't be connected, just Ordinal, not BTC. So if you airdrop into a Fresh Wallet, it could be connected on what has paid for it, but it won't really be seen like that on transfers. But we could look at the Ordinal's bot history on those transfers, and it could show. It does show what's been paid, but you could delegate whatever wallet airdrops it to, which is pretty cool, right? So you can make like a clean wallet, airdrop it to someone else if you want, wherever you want it to go, and you can then just have inscription. And the real reason you want to do it is that at the same time, you have a bunch of upside here, right? Which is really great. right? And I think that's important. Sterile, I don't think you understand. You don't buy Moto with your TBTC. You buy Moto with other tokens on MotoSwap. The TBTC that we gave you, point one, is to run the gas transactions on that chain. Point one TBTC is more than enough to do 1,000 transactions. So you have more than enough. You have to understand these systems. And this is kind of where I'll kind of wrap up as we talk about these games, and we'll break this down. You have to become power users yourself. You cannot act helpless when you need to find the right solutions. You need to learn how to use Google. You need to learn how to actually solve a lot of these problems on your own, right? And the real reason for that is all of you are going to have different scenarios. You're going to have a different browser, a different internet speed, a different ad blocker, a different wallet account. You need to make sure that you can navigate this incredibly well on your own. Because especially if you want to be a farmer, you're going to be hitting so many obstacles, right? You're going to hit wallet obstacles, browser obstacles, refresh obstacles, cache obstacles, right? And this is the important thing, is that Bitcoin is that early that the UX is bad. And that's a good thing. I want you to understand this. Good thing that the UX is this bad, because it means that you're fucking her. And it means that when the UX is this bad, 90% of people don't want to do it. Do you know how lazy this market is? Most of this market still doesn't even want to create an Ordinals wallet, right? Like, they just don't even want to create that. That's how lazy this market is. And then 90% of them don't want to even get ready to optimize UTXOs for day one Rune. And then 90% of those users don't really want to actually build high quality farm wallets to get exposure, right? All of these users aren't there. So the question is can you put yourself into that 1%? Can you put yourself into that 1% if you want to believe in that upside? And again, if you're a whale, I don't think you need to be farming, but I know tons of whales who farm. And I know tons of whales who believe Bitcoin is 100% going to be worth their time to farm as well. So I do hope that you guys can absolutely consider getting exposure. And really, for me, this is kind of why I'm excited, because I'm trying to farm with you. You guys are way ahead of me. It's kind of insane. I'm only on 50 points on like 5 wallets right now. So I have to get a little bit higher here to try catching up to you guys later this week. But the reason why this is also like important is that we're actually, like, I know this sounds crazy, but you're actually the truest pioneers of Bitcoin, right? If you're a farmer, you're actually going through the first primitive user experience of the entire Bitcoin future. It's kind of an amazing thing if you think about it, right? Like, people who are going to have exposure to a lot of these protocols in the future that are going to run billions of dollars of financial value, you were there at day zero, supporting, understanding. So what's also really amazing about being a farmer, and I haven't talked about this yet, but I'm going to share this more, is that you become a true power user of the ecosystem. Like, just look in this community. It's amazing. A few of you are now Moto Swap OGs. It's been less than 3 or 4 days for some of you. And you're like already understand that ecosystem better than most, right? Or those plays, right? Maybe you finally understood what it means to add into an LP and set up pairs and do a swap, right? You're actually becoming power users of that ecosystem, and that's a swap protocol, right? Like, if MotoSwap actually does become the Uniswap of BRC, CBRC 20, congratulations, you're a power user on the largest swap protocol, on hopefully one of a meaningful meta protocol which will have a lot of liquidity in CBRC 20, right? Not only are you getting the upside of whatever the yield, but you will also get the upside of actually being a power user of that system, which will give you a massive advantage, because the user experience on Bitcoin is going to be totally different than ETH. It is going to be totally different. And all these ETH users who are fucking lazy and don't want to deal with this shit, they're going to get so much pain. They're going to feel it, because they're going to miss on all these opportunities. And that's kind of your advantage, is that you want to become the pioneers who could speak this native primitive language. You want to be able to speak where you know exactly what Satoshis mean. You know how many Satoshis are in a Bitcoin. You understand what a cenotaph is, right? When it applies to ordinals. You want to understand how to etch, how to mint, how to claim. You want to know all of these things. And that's your compounding value. This is actually the intrinsic of what we believe of the Ronin samurais here, is that if we give you this knowledge, it's like your martial arts. If any of you have done martial arts, right? And I've done very little of it. I'm a fan, like an MMA fan. I've done a little bit of martial arts. I usually suck at most of it. I'm much more of a boxing and kickboxing fan. I suck at jiu-jitsu. Uh, Awful at it. I suck at rolling. But if if you actually understand and have done any of these martial arts, you know what the painstaking practice is of trying to understand each of these elements here each time, right? And you're trying to repeat that action over and over and over again until it becomes ingrained and it becomes second nature. And that's what you're doing here. You're training yourself to know all these second nature elements. I'm training you to like go look at Ordpool. I'm training you like BTC tools. I'm training you to make sure that you're reading Magic Eden. I want you guys to build this muscle memory because then you'll have the opportunity to deploy it yourself, right? And that's what we're trying to get to here and be able to navigate. And more importantly, you could lead other people as well. And shout out to a lot of you here who we see it. We value that a ton, right? You're leading by example, showing, and you're not only helping yourself achieve potentially more financial security and upside, but you truly are helping others do it too. And that is kind of the beauty of what crypto is and what it can be. And this is what BTC is going to offer, how this community is going to play. So as we step back, right, and we kind of wrap up, we understand there's three games, right? We have pre-rune game, which we're already in, right? Pre-rune game is already telling us what's been played out, getting your allocations. If you're there, you're good. The second thing is understanding day zero meta, right? With day zero meta, you want to understand that day zero meta is going to be dynamic and live, but there's very clear verticals and hurdles and evidence and in regard to meme value, in regard to original blue chip value of an asset, right? And of course, right, venture back value. So we want to keep an idea here as well, right? The last thing that you also want to understand then is that you want to be ready for post-rune meta. And that means setting up wallets, understanding these ecosystems, and going through the pain that others will not. It's slight pain, but man, I'm telling you, you talk to these farmers here as well, they're going to tell you very directly. Once you get into a groove, it's not that hard to knock out, right? And you could do it doing other secondary tasks, right? Watching a show, playing something else, right? Like you could do it if you're playing this here as well. And if you can do this, you can move really, really fast. The other thing is, right, you need to give answers. Find answers yourself, right? As much as this community will help you, don't be helpless. Find the solutions on your own. Find the ways that you could figure it out. Search through the messages to see if someone else has had this problem as well. Try to really make sure you're getting an understanding of how this market plays out, right? For example, Ale right now is stuck on the screen. I guarantee you he's probably running into. Do you have a ad block on, Ale? If so, you probably are running into the same problem that everyone else has done, right? It's always been ad blocker. And again, that data is all here. So that's the other thing, right, is like try to understand and search on your own with a couple of links and clicks, and you'll be able to survive, right? Because this dojo is not going to remain open forever, right? This dojo will close to push you guys out into the world, right? You will need to take your skills from this dojo forward and build your own legacy, right? Your own opportunity, your own growth. And I'll have more interviews, but I'm telling you, if you just want to commit to, say, the farmer only path, there are numerous farmers who made six figures the past couple of years, right? Numerous farmers in this community that have made six figures the past couple of years purely from farming, right? With very little capital, right? The most capital you would need is rotating capital between swaps and trades, right? This shit is real. It helps. It's meaningful. And it's honestly one of the safer returns if you're willing to trade your time for a 6 to 12 month return window, right? And it's not 6 to 12 months forever, right? Like, and it is. It's huge. Wild West Crypto is right. Arbitrum, you only need to do about, like, realistically, like 2 hours worth of work on Arbitrum, and you would have gotten their max allocation, right? On a lot of these projects, you really only have to do 2 weeks worth of like the actual allocation on this, and you'll be good. And that's the thing, is like almost every 2 weeks you should be thinking, and the market's picking up. So there'll be more of these opportunities. It's a little dry right now, but it'll pick up. But every 2 weeks you should be thinking, I'm getting exposure to another Bitcoin infrastructure token. Every 2 weeks, I'm getting a little bit of upside here every single time in this rotation. And maybe some campaigns you'll want to double down on conviction. But just know, every 2 weeks, we're going to get you exposure essentially to another Bitcoin protocol. That is amazing. That is the greatest gift this world can ever give anyone that has a wallet, access to computer, and some basic knowledge of crypto. Don't fade that shit. And on top of all of that, we can play the meme coin games, and I hope you guys hit some of them. I hope you guys hit some new mints that fucking go way up to the sky on the ordinals front. You're going to get to play all of those games, but the foundation of your portfolio should be this Bitcoin access you're going to get to all the infrastructure protocols. And if you're a whale, the other thing is that's also getting access to these protocols to invest into them. That is the other alpha you should be using. Like, if you're someone who can actually afford 5K, 10K, 20K tickets, you should absolutely be looking for opportunities to invest into these entities. There are tons of opportunities. They do open up rounds, and they're, and very simple to kind of put money in or get into a a SAF, a simple agreement for a future token or a pre-token sale. These are all available here, guys. You're going to have a bunch of opportunities and a bunch of upside here as well. So I hope that you guys feel a little bit more confident as you get closer to it. If you have more questions, drop them in the Samurai Hall. Drop them in the Koi Pond. We'll open up a few more. We're going to do a full video breakdown later today for MotoSwap. For all of you who want to see that, as long as the network is up and running, we'll push that out. You'll also get a full breakdown later this week on understanding the day zero meta. I'll be sharing that out, and I'll be sharing you a breakdown there too. And then later this week, you're going to get a full breakdown on the L2s and the test nets that we want to start prioritizing or keeping on our mind. What this community will give you is that it's going to give you early signals really quickly and really high upside. If you can do it, you're going to have a bunch of opportunities to keep winning. The other thing is that if you need TBDC, we have a spout. Just go join and drop your asset, your wallet, your test wallet in the community faucet, and we'll give you a shit ton of Bitcoin. We'll give you so many Bitcoin. It's nuts. Do it. Be a part of this. Go join this stuff, and you'll be able to keep increasing your upside here as well. With that all, we're going to let you all go. We have a lot of action-packed stuff. Even later this week, we're going to do some Rune art stuff. We're going to bring in Gokche and a few of our team members that you could hear about their art in their world. But again, a lot of our content is built for you guys in regard to the community opportunity. And the community opportunity is Rune. So let's go kind of see it here as well. Oh, actually, let's review this. Jason made a better deal for Karma Coin. Let's review what he just did here, since we just put this up, and then we'll end this call here. So this was a huge thing. Karma Coin was doing this crazy thing where it was going to be like $1,000 mint, and for everyone, and they were trying to do a $30 million raise. As soon as that went out, everyone shit on them and told them it's the dumbest idea we've ever heard. So essentially, with that pushback, we got a new update here as well. So now what it is this is the start of spreading good karma on Bitcoin. And we're excited to announce that KarmaStone is going live on ME on BTC on April 19th, just before the halving. Funding will go towards the launch of KarmaStone, the airdrop of Karma Rules, and future listings. Platform Magic Eden. Time 2 p.m. UTC. Duration 12 hours. Collection 30,000 KarmaStone. Phase 1 whitelist Karma Tap and Karma Card holders free mint. Phase 2 public 0.005 BTC. Whitelist can stack with Karma Card. For Karma Tap, If you hold 40,000 Karma Tap, you get 1 whitelist. If you hold 100,000 or more, you will get 2 whitelists. For Karma card holders, OG card gets one. Gold card gets 1 whitelist plus 40% bonus on Karma runes. Platinum card gets 1 whitelist plus 70% bonus. Diamond card gets 1 whitelist plus 200% bonus. So OGs are still technically the better buy, hilariously. So Snapshot will be taken at 1 p.m. April 18th. So really with this, if you have Karma cards, put them up. Clearly that's even though they say they stack, I don't split them up because guys are dicks. Oh, Karma card actually got some buy pressure on this news. Wow, it went back up. I'm not totally underwater on my Karma cards, people. Oh, yeah. But wow, it was down to 0.0014. Looks like the lowest sale here. So just 3x on this news. So at least people don't hate it. And looks like some rares were selling here for pretty cheap on the tiers. Let's see, gold card. You can get an OG card right now for 0.004. For 20% more, you can get a gold card. Oh, no. For 50% more, you can get a gold card. It's showing the wrong floor. So 0.0006. Interesting. So at least it's not going to zero. So at least if you had your Karma card, you have something. I'm just hoping. I'm just hoping the fees aren't stupid in that window. Don't get me wrong. I don't think I'd be buying Karma card here. I really wouldn't. I still think that this is like a wounded animal going to mint at this point, right? Like we winged it. Uh, it took a lot of fun, and to be very honest, I don't know how much of the OCM community would rally around it because OCM also kind of is distancing as well. Don't get me wrong, OCM has access to it, but it just doesn't feel like the conviction here. So don't get me wrong, I'll take my stupid free mints as long as fees aren't stupid. But remember, if this goes to like 150 sats or 200 sats, I don't know if I'm going to pay $30 to $100 for that claim, right? That's kind of annoying that it might be as high as what maybe the price was. So I think essentially at least it didn't go to zero. That's great. I might fucking go list my OG cards if these people are going to keep buying at this point. Might as well get out potentially. But if you have it, at least it's not going to zero. But this is also what you're just going to see in this market, right? Is that a lot of people are going to make these mistakes on the expectations of the sentiment. So, there's going to be a lot of misses. And remember, there's going to be a lot of, shit rugs here that are going to happen as well to it. So let me see where this goes, right, and where this market will be. Yeah, it is funny, PJ Crypto Crazy. It's funny we talk about it. You're like we complain about $30 fees, but that was like ETH mainnet for such a long time, right? I think we will get accustomed to it very quickly on ordinals right after this halving, and we'll all be okay with $50, $100 fee transactions, unfortunately, as well. I have not tested the XBTC bot yet. I'm hoping to do it later today. Maybe we could do it live together on their evening call for those who want to join. But definitely sign up for that if you haven't. That's a great AI minting tool bot that they're giving us access to pretty early. I hope that it works, but I haven't tried that out yet here. So, guys, with that, I'm going to let you all go. Enjoy the rest of your day. Continue stacking sats. Keep asking questions. We'll keep doing it here. There should be one scheduled on the calendar. It's my evening, so it's 7.5 hours from now. It's called Ordinal Market Review. Here, I'll just drop it here. There you go. Yeah, man, I'm totally missing the Champions. Awful timing, and I actually love my Barca. I don't know what's happening on PSG games, so I got to go check that one out. But yes, guys, I'm going to go grab the end of those games. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll chat soon. Bye-bye now.